Hello and welcome back to this video. In our previous video, we introduced the map filter and reduce built-in function in Python. And in this video, we are going to be working with the filter function. And like we have already stated, the filter function is meant to give you a result of an iterable if the members of the iterables meet a certain condition. Okay, so when we were working with the map function, we were able to work with a list, and we even converted the list to a tuple when we were printing it out, right? So this time around, I would like us to work with a dictionary, right? So now I'm going to create a dictionary object. And I'm going to call it new dictionary. I'm just going to call it new dict. And I'm going to set it to, well, a dictionary that contains maybe my biodata. So I'm going to say name. Whose name should I use if not mine? So I'm going to set it to, well, we already know, and maybe my age, and I'm going to set it to 28, and for my country, and I'm going to say Nigeria. So I'm going to add gender, and of course I'm female. So now this is a dictionary. I'm going to create another variable called later. So I'm going to set this variable to a, just the string a. And that is because I want to check the keys of this dictionary, the ones that contains a and the ones that do not contain a. All right. So if I check for the ones that contain a, I'll print it as a dictionary. Then if I check the ones that do not contain a, I also print those ones as another dictionary. Now that is the use of filter, right? So, and I'm going to now create my object for the filtered dictionary. So I'm going to call it filtered, and I will set it to, well, a dictionary. So now you can see that you can also use a dictionary method to output your variable. So, and when you're working with a dictionary, it is okay, especially when you are returning the key and the value, to set your output or your results to a dictionary. But assuming I want to work with only the keys or the values, right? I could work with a list or a tuple. Okay. So now I can say that I want to filter this dictionary. So I will use the filter keyword and I pass in my function. Okay. And I'm going to use a lambda function for now. And I'm going to pass in my parameter for this lambda function. So what do I need for this function? So I'm going to be passing in the dictionary items. So, and what am I going to do with the items? Okay, what am I checking for in the items? Sorry. So I'm going to write my colon, and I'm going to say that I want to check for letters in items, the first member of the items. So now I'll explain this in a bit, and then I will pass in the attribute that I'm using. So, and I'm going to call it new date dot items. So before I run this, I'm going to print something here, and before I start working with these filtered items, I'm going to print this new date. So I'm going to print it with the dot items method. So that is what we have here, so that you see what we are working with. So, and I'll print this. So you can see that all the items in the new date are being assessed as tuples, right? So each of them are tuple objects. So the name and the value, age and value, country and value, and all of that, they are tuple objects. So when you say that you are referencing first member of the objects in this new dot items, it means you are referencing the keys, right? So that is why we are working with this. So now let's print this filtered object and see what we look like. So we are looking for the keys that contains a. So we have name and age, right? So I'm going to print filtered and then save and run. So now we have our dictionary object neatly returned, right? So we can also change this to not in. So we have the ones that do not contain letter a. Okay, so I believe this now makes sense. So I just had to use this dictionary object so that you see that we can actually use a dictionary object with this map filter and reduce. It doesn't have to always be a list. So you can also pass in your dictionary object and state that you want the items in this dictionary object to meet this criteria before they can be filtered. Okay. So again, we are going to be working with this dictionary, and I'm going to working with it with a lambda function. So I'm going to create another new filter, and I'm going to set it to, well, a list. So I'm going to filter, and I'm going to pass in the lambda function. I'm going to pass in my argument. So I'm going to call it v because I'll be working with the values of this dictionary. Okay, so I'm going to pass in v. Now, what do I want to check here? So I'm going to check that whether v is an instance of a string. So I'm going to use this is instance method, and I'm going to pass in v and separate it with comma string. So we are going to convert to a list all the values of the dictionary that are of string instance. So now I've passed in my lambda function, and now I'm going to separate this with comma. So what is my iterable? So my iterable is going to be new dict dot values. So, and this should be able to check all the values, that is female, country, 28, and perpetual, the ones that are string. It should be able to output it in the list object for us. So now I'm going to print new filter, and we save. So let's run this. So now we have this list object here. Now that is how you can use your filter method, okay, your filter function, to check whether an iterable meets a certain condition, and then you can print it out, or maybe pass it into your database, or use it to do whatever you want. So thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.